What's up, and welcome back to Congruent Academy, the place for people in process. Cal here, and yeah, it's been a while. I had to take a step back from this channel and reflect on what it was I was actually trying to do, what was working and what wasn't working, etc. And I caught myself over a month out from my most recent post, and I realized something very scary. That this Congruent Academy could end up being like so many other things that I've tried to do, but eventually just stopped doing. I look back on so many skills that I could have developed, so many things that I could have experienced if I just stuck it out through the times when I didn't really want to show up for myself, when learning the skill and developing the habit felt tedious or overwhelming or discouraging. And so I've had to realize that that's not how I want to live anymore. And that's why I'm here. I don't want to give up on myself. I want to show up for myself. So here I am, showing up for me and maybe even for your entertainment, co-creating a culture of encouragement online and IRL. With that being said, I'm looking forward to this next phase of Congruent Academy and the development of this channel. You can support it by liking, sharing, subscribing, and engaging down below in the comments section. Again, keyword, co-create a culture of encouragement. As they say, it takes two to tango. But yeah, as I was saying, I needed to take a step back and reconnect to the purpose of Congruent Academy, a place that's pro-nuance, producing content that's all about getting my act together one video at a time. Incremental progress, anti-fragility, reflection. These are the core values of Congruent Academy, but I need them to be more than words. I want these to be central to my experience and to the audience's experience as well, which is easier said than done, but I believe that it can be done, so I'm taking a shot here. I don't expect to get it right on the first try. But the beautiful thing about creating something is that you don't actually have to start with everything figured out. You just need to get started, be open to serendipity striking, and not stopping. Oftentimes, when I think about some of the things that have influenced this trajectory, I reflect and find that quote pages and motivational/inspirational content on the internet is abundant. And it can be well-intentioned, but also rather nebulous and vapid at times. You often wonder if the person behind the motivational page or quote page really is walking the walk, or perhaps just talking the talk. That's not for me to say. In any case, I'm really looking forward to this episodic format, so I'd like to lead with a quote that can frame this episode, and then reflect and celebrate on some of the wins that the people out there have experienced this week, followed by a few of my own. And after I stumble through all of that, we'll conclude with a prompt for you, the audience, to consider and respond to in the comment section, which will be a great way to get our next episode started. So be sure to leave a comment down below. I will also be releasing each of these episode modules, subsections, as individual video clips as well, for those of you out there that just prefer to curate your Congruent Academy experience that way. So, here we go, with the quote.
I'm just speaking on what someone else has spoke. It's the quote, it's the quote, it's the quote, it's the quote. Whoop, whoop.
The quote this week comes from none other than Dr. Carl Jung, though I was made aware of it through the work of Dr. Jordan Peterson. It is simply this: the fool is the precursor to the savior. For so long, being afraid to be a fool left me playing the fool, living foolishly in the face of opportunities to begin truly living, actively contending with the fact that I feel so inexperienced in so many areas that I would like to develop in and learn about. For example, making videos on YouTube for an audience. So this quote hits me deeply. For example, the quote is a welcome reminder that the way to develop in any serious way requires experience and exposure, trial and error, feedback and reflection. And some lessons will be painful, because facilitating growth is a process not easily undertaken. So if I want to develop a skill or even a habit, I have to know it's not going to necessarily be perfect when I get started. Far from it. But I try not to be discouraged. I'll keep showing up, making a plan, and sticking to it. I know you can really do it, but I have to be willing to accept my initial ignorance and actively work to hone my craft accordingly. Maybe someone out there can relate. And speaking of really doing it, it's time for a highlight reel from one of my personal favorite subreddits, r/deciding to be better.
Want to make a change today? You are deciding to be better.
And that's a good thing. Yeah. First one here by user u/northwest/se, titled, "He said I love you 2 days into being an official couple. A year ago, I would have said it back. Instead, I broke up with him. Therapy for the last 8 months has helped me so much with recognizing my codependent habits. Oh, by the way, before I go any further here on r/deciding to be better or anything in my videos, I just want to make it clear that I'm not a licensed medical professional. Everything here is simply a part of my process of getting my act together one video at a time. So please bear that in mind when I speak to the things that I speak to. If you do need someone professional to speak with, please seek them out. I encourage you to do that. But yeah, let's keep going. Just wanted to get that out of the way. Should have done that earlier in the segment. Cal, learning all the while. Okay, so here it is. Therapy for the last 8 months has helped me so much with recognizing my codependent habits, confronting why I future fast forward / romanticize and ignore red flags. This was my first relationship in 5 years, 30 years old female, and I was excited. We got along really well, laughed a lot, had fun times together, but he, 40 male, would overshare, emotionally dump on me. I felt exhausted after we would hang out, like I was having to entertain him. There was no comfortable moments of silence. He didn't know how to cook. I cook 85% of my meals. He had no savings. He didn't have the same long-term goals. He said, I want my partner to push me to be the best I can be. I told him I am not here to fix or motivate anyone. I want someone who wants things for themselves, not to appease a partner. I had to go with my gut. He was so invested in us and moving so fast. I kept telling him to slow down, but he wasn't listening. I said, boundaries are really important to me. We waited weeks before being intimate, but within days of the act, he was telling me he loved me, and if I loved him, I didn't say it back. I told him I needed space. So I broke it off, and I'm glad. I felt relieved. I opened a bottle of red wine, made myself my favorite meal, and put on my favorite music and opened the window. It's raining. My cat is curled in front of the heater. I am relaxed. I gave someone a chance. I tried. I stated my boundaries. He didn't listen. I ended things. I'm safe. I have my future ahead of me. I am worth all the things I do for myself. He told me, I don't know what it takes to be in a real relationship, and telling people I met through him, quote, she's never had a healthy relationship. I never shared exactly what happened in my past, and glad I didn't. No one is entitled to my trauma. I am valid in my reasoning. I bought myself a fancy opal and diamond ring I've been watching for a few months. A present to myself, and a reminder that anyone who wants to enter my life has to treat me as well as I treat myself. Edit. This blew up so much bigger than I ever thought. Thanks for those supporting me, and a big dismissive jerk-off gesture to the men who think I owe my heart to someone who didn't listen to my boundaries. No one is obligated to reciprocate your feelings. No one is obligated to stick it out. You can leave at any time for any reason. Never let somebody treat you badly or make you uncomfortable. Do not allow anyone to make you feel bad for not wanting to trauma bond. You're not a therapist. True that. I'm not a therapist either, so remember, this is all just stuff that comes top of mind for me in reflecting on this, but what I can appreciate from this post is the ability to recognize that things were not in sync, and the OP's capacity to be assertive in that relationship, to recognize that it isn't her job to fix this other person. In fact, recognizing that once she knew things were not going at a pace she was comfortable with, and giving this person reality checks in creating distance, in setting expectations and boundaries, and then going that next step and working to understand herself and how she might have put herself into such a position, i.e. through therapy, recognizing the codependent habits, confronting her capacity to future fast forward, to romanticize, to ignore red flags. I can appreciate that vulnerability. I can appreciate that because in being able to recognize your own faults and work on them and acknowledging that you even have them, then you're in the better position to potentially work through them, transcend them, make changes for the better for yourself and for all of your relationships, ultimately. So, well done to this OP. Next, this second post comes from user Trusted Lies, titled, "After years of poverty, I will be making enough money to live comfortably. I am grateful. I live in a really impoverished city where the annual income is $16,000 a year. It's the poorest in my state. I had the misfortune of living with a roommate who demeaned us as I was going through college, saying we would never make it and constantly choosing alcohol over a future. I went down the same rabbit hole as he did. Fortunately, he is long removed from my life, and I am glad I am sober. Through college and afterwards, I never had a job that made enough for me to truly be living comfortably. The economy here allows for jobs to get away with $7.25 to $8 per hour jobs. I accepted a $17 an hour job in a good line of work. I'm really excited to be able to pay my bills. Even see about going to a college part-time for an associate's in robotics. I'll lose all of my free time. I'm really glad that my life is taking a positive turn, and I'm looking forward to 2022. Well done, Trusted Lies. That's fantastic. So much of who we can become is ultimately informed by the environment that we live in. And this poster is able to speak to that in a sobering way. The fact that the annual income in wherever they find themselves is $16,000 per year, and the fact that this person is taking the opportunity that was presented to them to better their lives, sacrificing the relationship with the roommate and the habits that brought with it, the rabbit hole, as the poster refers to it, and the gratitude about no longer being in such a relationship and having healthier habits. But, of course, this poster is confronting some harsh reality about opportunity. I like the way that they're able to see hope in the future, to feel excitement with the capacity to be independent through their own effort and labor, to aim higher for education opportunities, even though they recognize it might be a sacrifice of free time. I'm very proud of this person, even though I've never met them or ever will, I assume. So, this is great. Well done. Really. Well done. Keep going. You can do this. Trusted Lies. You can do it. Okay, now, let's change gears. Congruent Academy is about A, getting my act together, but B, learning, reflecting. So,
Word of the week. Word of the week.
Learn your vocabulary.
the word of the week is elevate. Verb, to fill with great joy. 2, to move from a lower to a higher place or position. 3, to move higher in rank or position. 4, to assign a high status or value to. Used in a sentence. Back in the day, my friend, I was down and out. I had to take a step back and see all the ways that I was positioning myself and where things were working and where they were going wrong. With that perspective, I started making better decisions and elevated my state to a level of fulfillment and purpose that I continue to connect with gratefully and gradually each and every day. And if that sounds like I'm giving myself a pep talk, you're right. You're right. But I hope someone out there can relate to that experience. And now, broadcasting live from across the Congruent Academy campus in the Hall of Half-Formed Thoughts, here's something. Okay. It's really important to disconnect from the computer and all devices, notifications, to spend some time unplugged. I went for a run in the park the other day, and it felt terrific. That's all for now. Week in review time. So, week in review. Well, I had a few days this week that were hyper productive and a few days that seemed to be the total opposite. So, that's been my experience this week. So, I wrote to my friend, Dan Decelerator, and just wanted to give you a little clip of that convo in text form. So I started by saying, quote, "It's like some days I'm totally on it, taking everything in stride, but then inevitably some rabbit hole emerges, but inevitably some hole emerges, and it's like I'm moving through jam instead of gliding through air." And then Dan said, "Did you ever think that maybe you're just slowing down because subconsciously when you're going faster, you can get hurt worse?" I don't know how to transition to this next segment, but another thing that I wanted to talk about in reference to just learning how to get my act together one video at a time. I want to have a weekly segment called Cal's Quick Tip, where just stuff that I pick up in this process. So here we go. Quick tip number 1. If you're looking for a better way to manage your time when you have a lot on your plate, you should give the Pomodoro technique a try. So the Pomodoro technique, which was developed by Francisco Cirillo, breaks up work into more digestible chunks in an effort to make one more productive in a sustainable way. The way it works is you have a project or objective that gets defined, and then you break it down. And once broken down, you get to these individual modules of the larger task with 25-minute chunks or Pomodoros. Now, the key is within these 25 minutes, is your focus is solely on the task at hand. And after your 25 minutes is up, working with that deliberate focus, you have a 5-minute break between each chunk. And between every 4 Pomodoros, you're going to take a 15 to 20-minute break to refresh. The keyword is break. Step away from the work, and then come back to it like you press the refresh button on your computer. I like this because the timer creates a sense of urgency in the work. And the 5-minute break gives you the opportunity to recalibrate based on what you've done. So I've tried it, and on the days where I've been more productive, I've been able to sustain that focus without the unbearable strain that comes from tunnel vision. So give it a try. Elephants are eaten one bite at a time. Okay. And now it is the prompt. This is the part of the show where I ask you a question and you respond to it. It's a prompt. It's pretty straightforward. So the prompt for you is, have you been in a funk? And how did you handle it? And most importantly, how are you doing now? Hopefully, like me, you've been able to get out of it. But of course, the days ahead are not guaranteed. So keep showing up for yourself, keep sharing down below, and choose to live fully regardless. That does it for this episode of Congruent Academy. So from me to you, power to the people in process. Congruent Academy is not affiliated with any university, ideology, or organization. Power to the people in process. Pew! Pew! If you like this episode and want to hear more, be sure to subscribe to our channel. Thanks for listening.